It began with a sound no bank manager should ever make. The sound of a grown man whisper shouting, "Oh no, oh no, no, no," while wobbling on a dented scooter loaded with more cash than the annual budget of a small village, moments before the entire machine coughed, hiccuped, and died in the middle of a busy Bengaluru road. And as he desperately kicked the ignition, sweating through his shirt, helmet visor fogging up, praying to every deity available in the Indian pantheon, the universe decided this was an excellent time to remind him that karma has a wicked sense of humor. This is how a so-called perfect rupees 1.6 crore heist ended. Not with police sirens or forensic brilliance, but with a sputtering scooter and a CCTV camera that caught everything. Welcome to episode 6 of Dark Ledger, and today's episode is titled The Scooter That Sank a Manager. If you enjoy stories of ambition gone wrong, of plans that fall apart in the most embarrassingly human ways, subscribe for more deep dives into the strange, the bold, and the catastrophically stupid. The strange thing is that no one expected anything unusual from this Canara Bank branch manager. He was known as calm, polite, diligently middle class, a man who brought his lunch from home in small steel boxes, who spoke gently to elderly customers, who once rescued a pigeon that had wandered into the bank lobby. Nothing about him screamed future criminal mastermind. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, and he wasn't the sort of person colleagues whispered about with suspicion. Yet somewhere between routine audits, loan paperwork, and the quiet hum of air conditioning, something shifted. Some crimes begin with desperation, some with greed, some with a belief that one is too smart to be caught. But this one began with boredom, the slow, smoldering kind that eats into a man who feels the world has not noticed him enough, a safe full of money he handled daily, a branch where he knew every security blind spot, a deep dissatisfaction with the salary that never stretched far enough, and a mind that began whispering, what if? It wasn't a sudden leap. It was a drip, 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 a gradual erosion of ethical boundaries, until one day he looked across the bank floor and realized that if anyone in this building could steal from this building, it was him. And the idea thrilled him. It made him feel sharp, alive, like the protagonist in a heist thriller he had only ever watched, never imagined living. He started small, noticing when the guard took his tea break, which CCTV angles were slightly off, which staff members always arrived late or left early. It wasn't planning, not yet. It was observing, a seed quietly sprouting. He was 32 years old enough to know better, young enough to believe consequences were negotiable. He had no criminal record, not even a parking ticket. He was the sort of man police officers later describe in press conferences as cooperative, and neighbors describe as very normal. But normal men, when pushed by ego or fantasy, can become unpredictable. He created his plan like a craftsman polishing a sculpture no one else knew existed. The heist would happen on a day when cash was unusually high, but staff numbers were low. He would run the branch alone for a brief window, long enough to access the main vault. He knew the codes, he knew the documentation system, and most importantly, he knew how to create the illusion of routine so perfect that when money later went missing, investigators would first suspect system error, not an inside job. He worked late nights drafting fake entries and planting believable explanations for discrepancies that hadn't even occurred yet. He rehearsed the exact route he would take, down to where he would park his scooter, how he would load the bags, when he would blend into traffic. His only vehicle was that old scooter, a chipped, overworked contraption he had used since college, but he trusted it like an old friend. It had never failed him. It would not fail him now. On the morning of the heist, the sun rose quietly over the city. He dressed like any other day, buttoning his shirt with steady hands. He ate breakfast as if nothing extraordinary waited in the hours ahead. To the world outside, he looked like a man on his way to work. Inside, he felt like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, exhilarated by the height. The bank opened. Customers came and went. Nothing looked out of place. He moved with the calm authority of someone who belonged there, which, ironically, was exactly what made the plan possible. At the pre-chosen time, opportunities aligned. A junior staff member stepped out. A guard grew distracted. A courier arrived, and like a magician slipping a card from a deck, he accessed the vault. Inside the chilled metal room, stacks of cash sat in neat bundles, silent, obedient, waiting. He didn't pause. He didn't tremble. He collected Rs 1.6 crore with the precision of someone picking items from a grocery list. He filled 2 bags, heavy, satisfying. He closed the vault, performed the necessary documentation with a steady hand, and walked out just as casually as he walked in. Outside, the scooter waited. The same old dusty thing, engine slightly rattling, with a cracked rear-view mirror and faded paint. But today, it felt like a getaway vehicle in a Hollywood chase scene. He strapped the bags, ensured they were covered, checked for watchers. No one paid attention, no alarms, no suspicious stares. When he drove off, wind rushing past his helmet, he felt invincible. For the first few minutes, the world was perfect. Traffic flowed. His route was clear. He blended in seamlessly among delivery boys, office commuters, and college kids zipping by. He even allowed himself a smile. It was working. His dream of vanishing with a fortune and starting fresh elsewhere floated within reach. Then came the cough. At first it was minor, a sputter, a hiccup from the engine he pretended not to hear. He patted the scooter like it was a loyal animal needing reassurance. But machines are not emotional creatures. They do not respond to calming words. The cough grew louder. The engine stuttered. A plume of smoke puffed up. And then, like a tragic punchline delivered by fate itself, the scooter stopped. Dead. Motionless in the middle of a bustling road, blocking honking vehicles. The heist bags weighed the scooter down like anchors. Traffic swirled. People stared. And CCTV cameras, the silent witnesses he thought he had skillfully avoided, captured everything. He tried kicking the starter once, twice, 10 times. He kicked so hard he nearly toppled over. Sweat dripped down his back. Cars honked. A passing pedestrian peered into the covered bags, curious. He snapped them shut. His pulse thundered, but the scooter refused to cooperate. With panic rising, he dragged the scooter to the side. He removed his helmet, wiped his forehead, then put the helmet back on because he realized showing his face was a terrible idea. He tried pushing the scooter, but the weight of the money made it nearly impossible. A kind auto driver asked if he needed help, a gesture that in any other context would have restored one's faith in humanity. But to him, it felt like standing under a spotlight. He waved the auto driver away, muttering something incoherent. He considered abandoning the scooter entirely, but the bags were strapped too firmly. He had secured them tightly, believing the heist demanded professional precision. Now that precision became his prison. Eventually, after frantic attempts, the engine coughed back to life. It felt like a gift, a miracle. He didn't waste a second. He sped off as fast as the scooter could handle, avoiding eyes, avoiding cameras, avoiding anything that looked like authority. But miracles come with disclaimers. While he made it home, the CCTV footage had already begun its slow journey to investigators, footage featuring a struggling scooter, a suspicious load of bags, and a man whose panic was visible even through a helmet. Meanwhile, the bank discovered the missing money. And when investigators reviewed internal logs, they found inconsistencies he believed were invisible. They weren't smoking guns, but they were questions. Paired with the scooter footage, those questions grew into certainty. It didn't take days. It didn't take brilliant detective work. It took one broken scooter and one unfortunate camera angle. Police arrived at his door. They say he didn't put up much of a fight. He looked tired, like a balloon slowly deflating. As officers searched his home and uncovered the money, he reportedly whispered, "I almost made it." Almost. The word hung in the air. In interviews afterward, investigators admitted something remarkable. This might indeed have been a near-perfect heist, if not for two fatal flaws: overconfidence and an unreliable scooter. Had he used a car, a rental bike, or even a cab, His story might have taken a different turn, but the simplicity of his ordinary life, the comfort of his daily commute, became the trap he never saw coming. News channels replayed the scooter footage endlessly. Social media roasted him with memes comparing him to movie thieves undone by the smallest details. People laughed, others pitied him. And somewhere in the mix, a lesson emerged. Intelligence is not immunity. Planning is not invincibility. And even the sharpest mind can be undone by the most mundane machine. The aftermath was swift. He was suspended, then arrested, and formal charges followed. The bank conducted internal audits to restore public confidence. His reputation, once clean, became a case study in temptation and downfall. Neighbors who once greeted him warmly now avoided eye contact. The community whispered. His family faced questions they never imagined. But beneath the public mockery lay a quieter truth. This was not just a story about theft. It was about the fragile line between ordinary life and extraordinary decisions. About how a man who lived gently, quietly, predictably, could drift into criminal ambition fueled not by hatred or desperation, but by the intoxicating belief that he was smarter than the system, that he could outthink consequences, that the universe would bend to his audacity. Yet life is not a heist movie, and even the smallest flaw, an old scooter coughing at the wrong time, can unravel everything. In the months following the incident, the case became a frequent topic in training programs for banking staff, not as a cautionary tale about evil, but about human vulnerability, about the importance of checks and balances, about how familiarity with systems can blur ethical boundaries, and about how oversight, even when imperfect, eventually catches up. But what happened to the man himself, the 32-year-old who dreamed briefly of a new life funded by stolen cash? His statements revealed a man who felt underappreciated, undervalued, and increasingly convinced that extraordinary acts were the only path to a better life. He spoke of pressures, of comparison with more successful peers, of silent dissatisfaction he hadn't voiced. He had convinced himself the money was not theft, but compensation for being overlooked. It was a rationalization many criminals share, the belief that the world owes them something. In court, he appeared calm, subdued, resigned. Witnesses said he no longer resembled the confident planner who had orchestrated the heist. Instead, he seemed like someone who had glimpsed a version of life he could never return from. There was no dramatic trial, no fiery exchanges, just a quiet procession of facts, documents, CCTV clips, and a scooter that became Exhibit A, a symbol of both ambition and downfall. Punishment was inevitable, but consequences extend beyond legal sentencing. They seep into the corners of a man's identity, shaping how he is remembered by family, friends, and even strangers. Long after the case closed, people still spoke of him with a mix of disbelief and baffling humor. How could someone so intelligent overlook something so basic? Why did he trust a scooter that had betrayed him before? Why not test it, prepare a backup plan, rent a bike with functioning spark plugs? But human beings are not always rational. We cling to the familiar even when plotting the extraordinary. And though the world laughed, lightly, cruelly, repeatedly, this story remains more than a punchline. It is a mirror reflecting how thin the line is between cleverness and folly, between confidence and arrogance, between risk and ruin. Because sometimes, the thing that destroys a grand plan is not law enforcement, not technology, not a genius detective, but a rusty scooter sputtering in traffic, announcing to the world that even the most ambitious heist can collapse under the weight of its own absurdity. And as for the rest, the reintegration, the rebuilding, the lessons learned, those are quieter chapters, rarely reported, overshadowed by the spectacle of the downfall. But one hopes that somewhere in the midst of legal proceedings and personal reflection, he found clarity, not just about crime and consequence, but about the universal truth that cutting corners rarely leads to destiny, only to detours that widen into disasters. And so the tale of the Canara Bank manager ends, not with cinematic explosions or epic chases, but with a wheezing scooter and a man who believed he could outsmart the world, only to be outsmarted by his own vehicle. This has been episode 6 of Dark Ledger, The Scooter That Sank a Manager, a reminder that in life as in crime, the smallest details can dismantle the grandest schemes. Subscribe if you want more stories where truth is stranger, funnier, and far more heartbreaking than fiction.